I've placed 3 constraints on here that I can animate. For the handle, we could either do an angle between here and here, or we could do the offset distance between this face and this face. I did the offset distance, uh, and then I also did an angle constraint for the table so that I can rotate the table, and then I did an offset distance between here and here as well, so I can pull this index pin back. Now I put the Animate index rod, I put that up at the top of the mates folder. I'm going to drag the other 2 up here at the top too, so that they'll be easier to find. So I'm going to drag this one up, and I'll drag my 3rd one up. Okay, with those 3 at the top of the relations or mates folder, they'll be easier to find. So if I suppress the angle constraint, then I can drag this part and it's free to move. When I animate that though, I want to animate the angle, so I'll unsuppress that. And then if I edit the distance for the pin, in a little bit I'm going to animate that. So if I edit that feature and I tell it to go some distance, let's say 30 millimeters, and actually that was this one up here, so I need to pay attention to which one I had. But notice when you're controlling it with the parameters, it will compress. If you suppress that constraint and then just drag the handle, the spring won't immediately compress or uncompress. You'd have to do a control Q or rebuild all in order for it to compress or uncompress. And then this was the one I intended to do. So if I edit that, and I put in an offset distance, say 1 inch, then it moves back. So let me put that back to, I think I had 0.585, and it moved back to where it was. Alright, so I have some constraints then that I've defined, and I'm going to unsuppress that one. Actually, I wanted to show this one. So if I suppress this one, and I can now drag this handle freely, the spring doesn't automatically update until I do a control Q to rebuild the model, and then it updates. So but if we control it with the computer though, then it will update as soon as we change the parameter. So let me unsuppress that, and it goes back down and it partially compresses that. Alright, so those are the 3 constraints that I'm going to animate. So I'll go into my motion study, and I probably should save this thing because it was done in an earlier version. Again, I recommend that you turn this off, the auto key, and don't put any camera in until you get finished. Once you've got all your motions, then put your camera on here. But if I go down here to the bottom and I expand in the mates, then I can right click and I can edit the dimensions for these different offset values or the angle value for the constraint. I can move those around just like we did in Inventor. I can change the start time if I want by dragging that. I could change the end time, and somehow we can move this entire motion. Maybe just change it end to end. But it's pretty much the same as Inventor once you get these constraints in here that you can edit. Now, anytime you see this bar along here, it kind of has a crosshatch in it, it means the SolidWorks needs to recalculate, and so I will, to do that, click on this tool to calculate the parameter. And so as it goes through, it's recalculating the motion. And also my camera position. So I don't have one on the table, so let me go ahead and put one on the table. So I'm going to do edit dimension, and so right now it's on 30 degrees. It started actually, so that was 30 degrees, so I need to go to 90 or 120 to rotate 60 degrees, and so I'll say OK to that. And then so I have a motion then that's occurring for that angle, and it's best to have your playhead down here someplace when you put this in, otherwise it's going to start and stop at the same place, and it's going to be hard to see what you have. But I can drag that end point here, I can drag the start point here, and if I right click on this and I say let's see, I'm looking for actually the dimension, that's the time. Let me see. Alright, I just put my mouse on it, so it's at 30 degrees there, so I see that it's 30 degrees here, and I see that it's 120 degrees there. And if you want to edit that, I guess we just come back over here and edit the dimension with that highlighted. So do some experimentation, see what you can do to get it to work.